Hello everyone, welcome to SAP GRC Access Control Introduction. This course explains full usage of SAP GRC Access Control, and it also describes step-by-step configuration of SAP GRC Access Control for everyone. First of all, we need to understand in some way GRC is nothing new. It's almost every activity under the circumstances of GRC has been going on for quite some time in the business world. For example, segregation of duties that is required by section 404 of Sarbanes-Oxley's Act has always been a part of auditing tools or auditors toolkit. Whenever there's auditors, then they will go through this act, of course, of their recommendations when it comes to preventing fraud. And compliance has always been under the obligation of reports in financial result to comply and report on their performance with respect to environment safety and to trade laws, and to identify the risk and as early as possible. That's objective of GRC. Every well-run organization, whether it's a private or public organization, puts its own unique way of self-identified policies which already in place, and make sure that these policies being followed. As time changes, all these measures can be updated, meaning to say the GRC is not new for us, so it's already there. Why do we need SAP GRC? I would like to begin this training by saying GRC, SAP GRC is not just as a software. It's an attitude of how to do business, or how to do business in the right way. Okay, GRC is an attitude. It goes along with all your SAP product. So GRC means governance, risk and compliance. The main objective of the GRC, the SAP GRC, is to automate as much as possible. So as we discussed before, the GRC was there already, that we are following all these rules and regulations. Using SAP GRC in an SAP environment, how we can automate all these regulations and compliance requirements as much as possible. Because if you see in any big environment, in a corporate environment, there is quite a lot of efforts being spent how to comply with these regulations and policy requirements of each and every countries. So using SAP GRC, how much we can automate, that is our main objective of implementing SAP GRC. By implementing SAP GRC, the visibility of the compliance requirement and stakeholders of the company will be aware that how this GRC or SAP GRC is helping us to see the visibility of the compliance requirement for the local regulations, or to comply with the local regulations. So this will increase the confidence on the shareholders. So that is also one of the main objective of implementing SAP GRC. So the visibility has to increase and the automation has to be there. So using this automation, that you need to comply with all the regulations and policy requirements with the minimum cost. That is the objective, and with a better performance. So using the visibility, since we said that we will increase the visibility of the compliance requirement and the prevention policy within the organizations, the performance of your business will automatically increase. And in the end, we need to comply efficiently. It's not that okay, you have an audit requirements of SOX audit requirement, we comply with the audit requirement. It's about how you comply with the audit requirement efficiently. That's what we implement SAP GRC. SAP GRC is complying efficiently with minimum cost, which will increase the visibility of the compliance and regulation requirements, which will in turn increase the performance of your business. Maybe I can give you a practical example how compliance comes into picture. Let's assume that we are driving a car. Okay, So when we drive a car, that you have lot of requirements. It's a regulatory requirements which is coming from, for example, your traffic control department, which will say, okay, you need to have a driving license to drive the car. Then you will have another requirement coming from your environment and safety and environment ministry, or some, again depends, which will say, okay, you need to verify the car, and every 1 year then the pollution should be controlled like this. Then there is a requirement. These are all regulatory requirement. And on top of it, when you drive the car, then you need to follow the traffic rules, which is coming from a different party. So you have almost right now we have 3 different parties who have their compliance requirements. So you need to follow the rules and regulations, and you need to comply with your driving requirement, that you need to have a license. Then you need to comply with your vehicle, how you are going to, the vehicle should follow some safety standards and other requirements. And on top of all these traffic rules, then you will have your own rule, which, for example, you will have your own requirement, like I will check my oil every day, and I will also check my air in the tire every day. This is your own requirement for your own safety. So you have, on top of all this requirement, you have your own requirement, or you have your own control to control the safety of your driving. So on top of it, like let's say, are you using oil more than what is required, or are you driving efficiently? These are all the monitoring requirement what you will do on the way when you drive, because you will always check, okay, whether my car is consuming more gasoline than what is actually required. These are again measurement policies. So you have lot of policies around, lot of policies and control requirement when you are driving the car. So with using this requirement and using this compliance requirement when you drive, what it makes for you, what is the advantage, what you get is, when you drive the car, you are safe and you are reaching the place, your destination, without any trouble. That is the objective. So GRC is almost the same, that using these compliant requirements, how you can run the business in the right way, and how we can target the business, how we can run the business in the right way. That is the main objective of our GRC. Target audience for this course is SAP GRC implementation consultant. Of course, either it's a technical consultant or functional consultant. The reason is, we will be going through all the functional requirement of the GRC as well in the entire course. This course is designed in such a way that initial some of the sections we will be discussing the concept and how to harmonize SAP GRC implementation, which is mainly related to SAP GRC functional consultant. And we will also see in the coming session how technically you can configure all this business requirement to SAP GRC for SAP GRC technical consultant. And technical business users who is involved in GRC implementation, your organizations. So one of the main reason behind that is that to continuous control monitoring of any compliance requirement is very, very important in your business. It's not that once we finish the GRC implementation then everything is done. Continuous compliance monitoring process, which helps to maintain the system, then keep the objective as it is within the business, is very important. So the technical business user who is involved in SAP GRC implementation also can be part of this course, can benefit from this course. And IT governance experts, because the main GRC, this governance part of the GRC is coming from the governors. So all the governors who is involved in decision making of compliance requirement in SAP environment, then this course can be very useful for them. An SAP security consultant, as a security consultant, it is not avoidable that you need to know SAP GRC as well in the present environment. That most of the corporate organizations of course requires SAP GRC, because mainly if you see the SAP GRC, the business demands for this compliance requirement. SAP GRC is already part of their business requirement in many of the organizations. So the SAP security consultant also can be part of this course, and GRC IT auditors. So the IT auditors, if you see at the moment, if you're an IT and audit environment, that you will be auditing based on your SOX requirement or the set of guidelines which is given. But if you come to an GRC environment, how do you audit the GRC system, or how do you audit the SAP system which is controlled by a SAP GRC? Then we need to understand the SAP GRC part as well, not only focusing on SOX and SOX requirements. So for GRC IT auditor, this will be very beneficial, as well as a business and project team leads. The reason behind the business and project team leads, that whenever you implement a project or whenever you roll out a project which has highly restricted, which has all this compliant requirement, then we need to understand how does the GRC works and access control works, so that you will be able to direct to our customers and key users and or the business stakeholders of the business in the right direction. So the business and the project team leads as well can benefit from this course. The goals of this course, we will be discussing in detail how to integrate SAP GRC solution with your business requirement, and we will describe key features and benefits of SAP GRC solutions, and you will also come to know the integration of business using SAP GRC, and explain the relevant information and the architecture and security and authorization behind this topic. And you will also be able to explain how to share the master data between different SAP GRC systems and identify the common components in specific IMG modules. This will be our goals of this particular course, and the objective of this course is introduce SAP business object governance, risk and compliance, that is GRC 10, and then describe the key features and business benefits of integration solutions, and identify applications that integrate with SAP GRC solutions. Describe the purpose and location of key users, interface components, and describe the IMG organization in the SAP GRC, and describe general implementation process and key steps. We will see what is the content of this course. In the first section of introduction section, we will discuss about why do we need SAP GRC, what is the target audience and goals for SAP GRC course and objectives, and what is GRC, what is GRC in general, governance, risk and compliance in general. We will discuss about regulation standards. For example, SOX is a standard which is widely used in IT environment, but however the SOX requirement is used in different part of the world, slightly in a different name, but the objective is same. In general, what happens is in multinational companies that you will be duplicating the work from one region to another region or one country to another country in order to comply with the local requirements. Using SAP GRC, you can integrate all the compliance requirement into one, and you can globalize the whole compliance requirement so that it will be visible to the top management that what is the actual compliance requirement in the entire organization. We will also discuss how to control and manage the risk. Then we will see organization approach, and also we will have a SAP GRC overview. Then the second unit, we will be discussing about access control, what we have in access control components, and we will also discuss about old and new versions, and we will also discuss about the components, access risk analysis, access request management, emergency access management, and business role management as an overview, as well as we will see risk terminator. And we will discuss about GRC access control harmonization, access control meaning to say how we can harmonize GRC as well as access control, and how we can integrate with IDMs, that means identity management system. Then we will discuss briefly about process control overview in GRC and what are all the process control monitoring cycle and compliance and visibility. We will discuss about GTS, Global Trade Services, what is the use of GTS and how SAP GRC use GTS, and we will also discuss about GTS functions, and we will discuss risk management. In risk management, we will discuss about risk management module in general and how to do a risk assessment, and we will also discuss about incident management. The third unit, GRC architecture, we will be discussing about technical architecture of the GRC and the GRC landscape, and what are all the components which is involved in SAP GRC, and what is the front end client, what are all the front end clients we have for SAP GRC, for example portal and NWBC and Internet Explorer, stuff like this. And we will also see the non-SAP plugins, how we can integrate SAP GRC with non-SAP plugins, and we will see what are the user interface as we seen portal and NWBC, etc. And we will also discuss about GRC authorization, that is the GRC authorization within the SAP GRC, okay, and the objects also related to SAP GRC. As you know, SAP GRC 10 is very different from SAP GRC 5.3, because in 10 the Java stack is not used anymore, is fully built in ABAP stack, so the security within GRC is very much improved, so we can customize as per your requirements. We will discuss about SOD risk management. There we will be discussing about understanding authorization risk. What is segregation of duties? So within segregation of duty, what is purchase to pay process and what is the risk inside this purchase to pay process? So it is very important to understand as a GRC or a security consultant, what is the risk inside an SOD. So that we will see two examples here, purchase to pay and HR. We will see the risk which is involved in these modules, and we will also see managing this risk using XOD. So XOD risk management and what are all the phases involved in the risk management, and how to build a rule structure. And we will also discuss about risk management roles. The fifth topic, customizing GRC settings. We will be discussing about GRC IMG configuration, that is SPRO configuration, how we can configure the SAP GRC, and creating maintaining connections, how we can connect SAP GRC to a different SAP system, and changing connection setting and managing connection settings, how we can manage connection settings, because we need to configure the usage of SAP GRC in these connection settings. And configuring integration scenario, we have different integration scenarios as we see in risk assessment, management, user provisioning. So this integration scenario, how we can configure it. And we will see BC sets, that means how we can enable BC sets, what is BC sets, and how we can enable this BC sets also we will see. And connection group, and we will also see the entire IMG configuration which is related to access control. This is in general GRC, this is to access control, and how we can configure plugins and access control customizing, and also we will see how to define the business process. The next topic will be synchronizing repository. In this topic we will see how to synchronize the data from the backend system, the data from the system which you have connected to SAP GRC to GRC, and the sequence the synchronization job needs to be executed, that we will see in this particular topic. Then we will see MSMP workflow. This is one of the most important part of SAP GRC Access Control 10, and this is also one of the main topic in Access Control 10 in this specific course. It is very well explained in this course how MSMP is being configured. And here we will see the introduction, business workflow, what is the use of business workflow, and the initial configuration. That means before starting the MSMP actual configuration, what are all the initial configuration which is required, which is the another configuration which is works along with MSMP. Also we will see it here, and we will see MSMP related roles, that is the authorization roles also we will see. And configuring MSMP, we will see the process global setting, maintaining rules, how we can maintain the rules, how we can maintain the agents, how we can maintain the variables and templates. That means the variables and templates which is used for notification purposes. And we will also see path and stage, how to create path, how we can maintain stages in each and every path. And route mapping. Route mapping is to divert your request or the workflow to different routes. How do we do that? And we'll also see the how to generate the versions of the customizing which is done inside MSMP. Then the next one is BRF Plus, that is Business Rule Framework Plus. The first chapter of BRF Plus, that we will see the introduction, what are the components of BRF Plus, what are all the rule types we have in the BRF Plus. There is different rules, and we will study what are all the rule types, how we can integrate BRF Plus with MSMP. Then we will see in the second chapter how we can define the MSMP rules, how we can define BRF Plus rules, and how to create expressions and functions, and how to create tables, conditions, and values. The next chapter we will be discussing about access risk analysis, one of the main topic in SAP GRC, where first topic we will be discussing about maintaining rule set, the maintain rule set and what is rule set and hierarchy, and risk terminologies, what are all the terminologies we will use in the rule set, and how to configure, and configuration setting, and ERA configuration. And we will also see how to create a function and how to create a risk. And the next chapter we will see how shared master data, whereas how to create an organization, how to maintain an organization, and how this is being shared within the SAP GRC, for example with access control and process control. And mitigation controls, we will see how to create mitigation control, how to monitor mitigation controls, and we will see the roles also related to this access risk analysis. The next chapter we will be discussing about remediation of mitigation risk. We will see what are all the methods we have to remediate the risk which you will be identifying after implementing SAP GRC, and how to mitigate this risk. And also we will see mass mitigation and audit log. The next chapter we will be discussing about emergency access management. Here emergency access management overview, we will see the key players of emergency access management and methods of emergency access management, and we will also do a comparison between centralized and decentralized emergency access management in order to understand what is the best methodology which can be used in emergency access management. And emergency access management, we will see the step-by-step configuration of emergency access management. First is configuration, creating firefighter IDs, assigning owners and controllers, maintaining recent codes, and actual firefighting activity. We will do an actual firefighting activity and see how this is working. And next one is that managing emergency access management logs. That is how to use the reports, what are all the different reports what we have, how we can use the reports, how we can get the reports from the backend system. These kind of topics we will be seeing in this particular session. The next one is access request management, which are also one of the interesting part of SAP GRC access control. First we will see the provisioning configuration, how to do the settings for the provisioning configuration. We will see how to create an end user provisioning form, user provisioning settings, and how to create templates. And the access request, then we will see how to create an access request. You will create different types of access request and see how it is getting provisioned in SAP GRC based on the configuration which we have done in the previous section. The next one is access request logs and workflow. We will see how we can use MSMP for this access request management. The next one is business role management. In this topic we will be discussing about configuring business role management, that is BRM. We will see the role attributes, what are the attributes what we have and how we can use that. Role management, also we will configure BRM step by step. Next we will see the role methodologies, that means using BRF plus. Using the BRF plus, how we can configure the how we can make a flexible configuration in SAP GRC for a complex scenarios. Then we will see role definition and creation. Here we will see here we will maintain role owners, and we will create, and we will discuss about role type and how to create roles. And next one is managing role. Here we will discuss about role mining, which also one of the important topics here. And we will also discuss about role mass maintenance. The last topic is reports and review. Here we will discuss about what are all the different reports which is available, and what are all the reports which is used for reviewer process. That is like SOD review and URA review, or how we can request these reviews, how we can generate the review, and what is the configuration of reviews. The end, we will conclude this training with some additional topics as well as some tips. Now let us see some of the scenarios for SAP GRC. When we go to the work center access management, so in the access management, we come down, you can see here access request creation. Okay, then you select access request. Here if you see, first one is reason for request. So this is like a free text. You can inform what is the request is about. Let's say here GRC training demo request. It was some free text. Then request type. These are all the request type we have configured in our SPRO. Okay, the new account, change account, delete account, lock, unlock, and super user access, and one is just for information. Okay, so first let's create new account. The super user access is the one which we can use it for firefighter ID. Let's say this, we have seen it already in the firefighter. We can provision users for firefighters. That is the firefighter ID you can create from access request management itself, so that the entire process is built in within the GRC itself. Yeah, so firefighter ID can also be created using access request management. So you don't need to manually create that. That is the idea behind that. Okay, let's say request type. Right now we will create a new account, and request for, we have self, other, and multiple. Self means for our own. Let's say when I select self here, you can see GRAC underscore all. Yeah, this is the user which we have used to log into the system, if you remember. Okay, so this is for self. Then go to other. Others means once you select other, then the user that you can key in the user, or you can also select from the selection criteria. Yeah, so let's key in the user. Let's say F underscore AR demo 1. Okay, and we can select the priority. Right now we did not define any priorities, so let's assume that if you have a priority, then we can select the priority and the business process and function area, and we can also select the due date for this particular request. So using this priority, let's go back to little bit to our MSMP and BRF plus. Using this priority and business area and function area, you can define approval steps, approval process. Let's say in BRF plus, what we have seen, we also use this priority and business process when we selected some of the rule sets. Yeah, when we created rule sets and tested. So based on these inputs, you can define the approver from these inputs. Yeah, so in that case we can use this one. Then of course in that case we need to make this as mandatory, so that user can select the business process and function area. Yeah, so right now we are just doing a demo. So I'll just leave it like that. Now we need to assign the systems as well as roles. System is not selected by default, remember that. The reason is, let's assume that you have more than one system in our GRC system which is connected. Then you need to select the system, of course, and you can create request for more than one system. Okay, so that means one request can have more than one system, as well as each system can have different roles. That is the interesting part of this GRC access request management. If you are using another third-party access request management, this is again a complication there, which I have seen in some of the third-party access request management, which is little bit complicated. However, in GRC access request management, you can have multiple system in one request and multiple roles, meaning to say different roles can be assigned in different systems. Okay, that is a very interesting feature in access request management. Okay, let me go to the system first. Let me select the system. So we have only one system. This application type is SAP. Okay. Okay, now let's select a role. So now let us select the role. So in the role selection screen, we need to first select the system. Okay, which system you are searching for this role. Okay, select this system. So here we can select the role type, whether it is single role, composite role, or derived role. Let's say single role. And the role name, let's search for role name is set G underscore star. Do we have some roles? Yes, we have some roles. As I said, these roles has to be created using BRM, the business role management. Unless you create or you configure in a business role management, this will not be available. Okay, if meaning to say, even your old roles also can be migrated into GRC using BRM. Yeah, so we need to migrate, configure in the BRM, then it will be available here. So as I said, this will work hand in hand. Okay, so right now we have only two roles. Okay, never mind. Let's select one of these and let's say add. Okay, and say okay. Okay. Then we have some more options here to remove. This is to remove it. You can select and remove. And existing assignment. We will come to this again. This will show you what is the present roles available for this user. Then the simulation is to simulate what is going to be the actual condition of this user. That meaning to say that you can simulate the SOD conflict based on the role assignment. Yeah, that is the use of this simulation. Let's say we have a risk violation check, that is to run the risk analysis in the next step. However, before submitting, you want to simulate, you can still simulate it here. Let's say if you select this, you can see. Okay, here you can see this will be the actual assignment. Yeah, this is the role which we have selected. Okay, this will be the role which will be assigned, and role type and validity and stuff like this. And you can also see the simulations. Yeah, so system, when you select the rule set, which rule set you want to simulate. Let's say global. Then if you say run risk analysis, then it will run the risk analysis and give you if there is any conflict. In our case, I think we don't have any conflict here. Okay, and we don't have any conflict. It's okay. Okay, I said apply. Then I go to the next tab, which is called risk violation. Here we can execute the actual risk analysis. Yeah, the same one which we simulated. Actually, that's the reason the system is already filled in. Otherwise, this will not be filled in. You can select and run the risk analysis. If you remember in our IMG configuration, our previous sessions, that we had these options that, let's say, risk analysis mandatory or not mandatory. In our case, we said no. That is again one more reason. If you have risk analysis also, you can still uh, submit this request. Yeah, otherwise it is mandatory that you need to run the risk analysis before submission. Yeah, so right now I already run the risk analysis. Okay, there is no risk. And if I want to add an attachment, okay, this is again a very important feature. Let's say you do not need to document these information in a different system or a different place. You can document everything in SAP GRC. So if you have some kind of approval which is given manually by somebody, if you want to attach that one, you can still attach it here. Then we will come to user detail. This is again very important one. This is the user master data of this particular user. Okay, let's say for example first name is demo user GRC training. Okay, employee type, actually we did not configure any employee type. We can still create an employee type in our IMG configuration, then this will be available here. Okay, here I need to mention one more point. Let's say right now this is not mandatory fields. Yeah, we did not configure anything as mandatory fields. If you go to SAP, then you will find this first name is a mandatory field. Okay, in these cases we have to be little careful here, that we need to define this as a mandatory field in our EUP configurations. Okay, so that these fields are not skipped. Otherwise what happens is this will become an error in the backend system. Then the your access request will not get completed properly. So we need to we need to configure all this thing. We need to define whatever the possible fields which are supposed to be maintained as mandatory, then we need to maintain this as mandatory. Then with communication method, we can also put our email ID here. If you put the email ID, then we will get the password by email. So for security reason, I will put a test@test.com. Then let me put some sample ABC 1234 1234 ABC. Okay, so I just put some values here to check. Yeah, and you can also define the SNC names. If you have SNC enabled, then you can define the whether you still allow user using SAP logon, stuff like this. And manager, this is organization data. This manager, we need to define the manager, that is the approver what we have created. For example, F underscore AR APP01. This is our approver. If you don't know, we can also still select from here. Let's select here. Let's say F underscore star. Yeah, this is the approver what we created. Yeah. So this is the approver who will be approving this request. The reason is, in MSMB configuration we define the manager as an approver in our approval stage. If you remember, let's have a look into that one. Maybe let's go. I will go to the MSMP. As we see in the, we can also come through our IMG path. Otherwise we can directly call this one from Internet Explorer. If you have saved the particular path, then it's quite easy. So in our MSMP configuration, if we go to the path, okay, so in the path we define the stages. Okay, in the stage, this is the agent ID, GRAC manager. Yeah, if you display it. So the agent ID is the GRAC manager who was supposed to approve. Yeah, if you remember this one. So the GRAC manager, if you go to the agent, so the GRAC manager, yes, this is a manager, this is an approver agent. Okay, so we define this GRAC manager as an approver agent here. That's the reason we need to define the manager here. Okay, so this person is the approver. Okay, then we have more details, same like our SU01 decimal notation and stuff like this. Okay, let me go to some parameters. And let me add some parameters, maybe something like SU star. Okay, let's add some parameters. Okay, and you can also specify the parameter values. Let's put some dummy value. Then we can define the user group, and this user group is not the actual user group in the logon data. Yeah, this is a dummy user group. Actually, this is not used. Okay, let's put some dummy user group here. Okay, then we can also and let us select the user type. This is a dialog user. Okay. Okay, we created dialog user. Okay, fine, everything is fine. Let's submit this request. Okay, we submitted the request, then it gave a request number. Again, this request number is again based on what we have defined in our number range. Yeah, so this is something for many zeros, then 32. That is our request number. Okay, now the request is submitted successfully. Now it has to go to the approver for approval. Yeah, so what we do, let's close this. Let's close this, login as an approver now. So the approver is F underscore AR underscore APP01. So we logged in as GRAC request approver. So this have quite a lot of options. However, if you go to access management or any other tabs, it should have the restricted authorizations only. Yeah, you can see here only the access request related things only which is available here. Okay, so let me go back to home. So how do we approve? The approver will receive this one as a workflow. Right now we did not enable mails. So if there is a mail we configure it, then the approver also will be get notified by mail. That you can configure in our MSMP with the templates and stuff like this. Okay. Here if you see in the inbox, you can see the our request 400032 is pending for decision. Okay, you select the request. So it will take the approver to the request what we have created. Yeah, this is the request number and this is the role, and let's make it big. You can see the reason what we have given and the risk violation. There is no risk violations, and you can see here risk violation is green. That means no risk found. Okay, if in case, yeah, if there is a risk, then this will be red. Okay, and if let's assume that we did not run the risk violation, then it will be yellow. That also we can see actually. Then you go to user details, all the user details whatever we have given, then we simply say submit. Okay, right now if you see the approval status is approved. Yeah, so you can also change it to reject if you wanted to reject it. Let's say you can reject only the portion of the request as well. Yeah, so you don't, does not mean that you need to reject the entire request. As I said, the request can have more than one system and multiple roles. You can approve only some of the portion, and some of the portion you can still reject it. Yeah, based on this approval status, then you select that, then you submit it. At the moment the request is again submitted, is approved. Okay, let me close this. Now you can see here that the request is disappeared from the inbox. Yeah, so let's close this. Now the user is already created. We can also go back to our backend system to check it. Say this is 101, this is 001. Let's go to the client 800. Let's log into the client 800 with a different user. The user we have created is f underscore something. Okay, let's say f4. Yeah, this is the user we created. You can see everything is correct properly. This is a role which we have assigned, and this is some parameters which we selected. Okay, thank you very much for listening. Please do join and benefit from this course. Thank you. Bye bye.